Happy Monday from UATV and welcome to Dorm Room Sports Chat. I'm Joey Petrello. Tonight, I'm joined by Go AZ Cats reporter Evan Murray, Wildcat hockey color analyst Nick Nolenberger, and Cameron Moon of Tucson News Now. On the road against their second Pac-12 opponent in as many weeks, Arizona football fell short in a valiant comeback effort in Southern California Thursday. We'll have more on that later. On Saturday, Arizona basketball officially returned with the annual Red vs. Blue game. Our analysts will preview the upcoming season, and we have highlights from the post-game press conference to show you as well. And after splitting a series with Liberty, Wildcat hockey stands at 3-3 as they prepare for a 3-game weekend on the road. I sat down with senior forward and captain Ansel Ivers-Andersen to discuss his journey to Arizona and finally returning to home ice after this weekend. All this and more coming up on Dorm Room Sports Chat. The Wildcats fell to 3-2 last Thursday after suffering a 38-31 loss to the Trojans in Southern California. Ed Orgeron began his campaign as interim head coach of USC with a commanding 28-10 lead at halftime. However, Arizona showed resiliency in the second half, outscoring the Trojans a total 21-10. Through the air anyway, B.J. Danker uncontestedly had the best game of his career, throwing for 363 passing yards with 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. So Evan, head coach Rich Rodriguez let Danker air it out more than ever in that game, and the stat sheet shows it was working. Had Rich Rod been a little too conservative with him in the previous games?
I think there's some truth to that. I think it might have been a little bit of Rich Rod, but I also think it's a lot of B.J. Danker. I think that he likes to run the ball, and I think that he's very equipped in that version of his game. And so I think having David Richards back and then Garrick Wharton having the game that he did, I think that made him more comfortable being able to play the passing game a little bit more rather than the run. So I agree that maybe Rich Rod was a little conservative, but I think it had a lot to do with B.J. Danker too. I think that's just his game, running the ball or passing it, handing it to Gadim for the run. But once he gets more comfortable with his receivers, I think that will really open it up for him. So I think we will be seeing a change in the passing game after this USC game.
I 100% agree with you. The fact is, though, with Dankers, he didn't really take over. There was no one in camp who really stepped up and really took over the job. The job was almost handed to Danker, and it wasn't because he threw the ball excellent in camp. It was just because he was the oldest guy, most experienced, the only one with a lot of playing time. So they kind of gave him the job, and Rich Rod, I don't think it's his fault for the fact that what are you supposed to do? You give him a couple deep throws at the start of the games, and he missed them. He's missed, countless times he's missed those deep seam routes, overthrown guys, and eventually you're just like, all right, we're going to give it to our bread and butter and give it to your best running back.
But what he's expressed also in press conferences is that it's not always, and everybody wants to put the blame on B.J. Danker for these overthrown passes, but what if it's the receivers that are running the wrong routes? And I think that was a bigger deal also. I think it was his comfort and his receivers, which just wasn't there, and he'll always have Kadeem Carey as his comfort, if you ask me, and I think that's the bigger problem in this situation.
I think a lot of people have forgotten that Austin Hill has been out all season and isn't coming back until next spring, and so Austin Hill, with his ability, can cover up some of those problems. And so it's been, I guess, difficult for BJ to adapt without him when you're leaning on someone who was all Pac-12 in receiving last year.
Right.
It's tough too. To lose, we have high expectations with how well Matt Scott played. He's a fifth-year guy.
Sure.
He came in he balled up, but he did have Austin Hill. He did have the big guy.
Dan Buckner.
Dan Buckner, thank you
David
very much.
Richards
David
as well.
Richards. There was a lot more targets. You're 100% right, and that opened up the running game for Kadeem to lead the country in rushing. And it's just like they're throwing. He should have more success with them having 8 guys in the box, but that just means they're putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback too. The windows are going to be more open, but there's a lot more pressure in his face. So it's catch-22. It's both sides, but I don't think Danker's really shown this season that he is going to take over and be that kind of dominant guy. So.
All right, well, Cam, the Wildcats secondary allowed 2 passing touchdowns of over 60 yards in the first quarter. In total, USC was able to gain 546 total yards on Arizona's defense. So what does defensive coordinator Jeff Castile have to do in order to maybe tighten up that defense a little more?
I think that it's worse than it actually, or it looks worse than it actually is.
Sure.
The Wildcats were only averaging giving up 208 yards per game passing before that, and I understand the level of competition was weaker, but it is something that he only passed for 297 and those 2 long bomb touchdowns. So I feel like it's more of just busted coverages and a few mishaps than it is a scheme problem. But at the same time, they are tied for 106th in the league, or in the nation actually, with only 6 sacks. And if you're not getting pressure on the quarterback, you're not going to be able to stop him from throwing the ball downfield.
No, and I'm kind of with you there, and I think it has a lot to do with, USC is I know they were just at Washington, but USC is an intense environment as well, and it's kind of intimidating. So they do have those freshmen on their team that sometimes freeze up or miss coverages and things like that. So I think that has a lot to do with it. I don't think there's much tightening up to do. I don't know if I would use that term. I think that just a few adjustments as far as mentality or just like a few mistakes need to be changed. I mean, mistakes happen. I think that's kind of how it went in that game rather than big changes that need to be made in the defense.
I mean, the game was just, it didn't really show you anything. First of all, we went into the game, you're thinking we might have a shot to beat USC. They just came off a big loss to ASU, and you go into SC, and what happens, they absolutely torch us in that first quarter, just throwing these deep bombs. And it is a shock to me, too, because we've been hyping up this defense for how much improved they are from last year. They were getting tons of turnovers, and all of a sudden they're just the top's getting blown off. So it was a little bit of a surprise. It felt like it could have been the USC. You go into USC, you go into the Coliseum, there's all that tradition. You see the Trojans, you see the guy come out on the horse, and it's an intimidating place to play. You don't realize it's SC until you see those colors on the other side and how big that stadium is. And I think it was just a little bit of a shell shock to start the game, and eventually they settled down. And it's tough to tell, too, with Danker. The defense looked a little shoddy. They seemed to settle down. With Danker, he threw over 300 yards passing. We haven't seen anything like that all season. So it's, what do you take from it? Is the defense struggling? Is Danker turning around? I mean, I don't know. It's kind of up in the air right now.
It's kind of early since it was only just one game.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so Nick, this Saturday the Wildcats face a Utah team with possibly more momentum than ever, possibly more momentum than any team in college football, after upsetting the 5th-ranked Stanford Cardinal 27-21 over the weekend. So if you're Rich Rod, what is your game plan to attack the Utes?
I think the first thing you would think would be feed Kadeem. Last year he had one of his bigger games against Utah, rushed for over 240 yards. I mean, really, we're able to run all over him. But at this time, they're putting 8 in the box. I mean, Arizona is ranked number 12th in the country right now with rushing the football, so obviously you can do it. But I think you got to have a little more balance because Utah is known for a good defensive line. They're going to put 8 in the box, and their shoddiest part is their secondary. So we'll see if Danker, maybe him throwing the ball is going to open up that defense a little. Maybe Kadeem will get a little more room than he's had, even though he's still doing pretty good rushing the football. It's still been a little bit tough sledding. All these yards he's getting is off initial contact that's usually about at the line of scrimmage, and he's gaining like 8 or 10 yards after initial contact. So, I mean, I think you got to have good balance, and you got to come out hot. The thing about Utah, too, is people are really surprised about this win because they had already had 2 losses, but Utah was going to BCS games. This is their toughest schedule ever in their history. This is their second year in the Pac-12, and this last year was the first time they hadn't made a bowl game since 2002. So Utah has been a good football team for a while. They had Alex Smith, first overall draft pick, so there's a lot of talent on Utah. The thing about Utah, too, though, they're coming into Tucson. This is the first time they're leaving the state. So the only road game was against BYU. They only beat them by 7, 20-13. So this is kind of like, this game's up in the air. It's definitely a chance for Arizona to pull off an upset for sure.
I'm with you there as far as this is besides BYU, their big whole scheme is being at home, being at Utah, and that's what even the Cardinals said about that. And then just the wide receiver, they made it seem like they won the national title, and it's kind of like a one-hit. People wonder if it's a one-hit wonder type of thing. UCLA barely squeaked out of there. They seem to have the pedigree, or however you want to call it, for this season so far, but I'm not completely convinced of it. But do I think that Arizona needs to come out hot and motivated? Absolutely. But I don't think this Utah team is as hyped up as everyone is trying to make them out to be.
I think that Arizona, if they start the way they started against Washington, against USC, it's not going to be fun. No. Right. Just because you can't build up that momentum over time if you both losses. Right. So you have to start fast and then keep it going.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Well, I certainly like our chances if we can play like we did in the second half in Southern California. The Arizona basketball red-blue game came down to the wire, and we have highlights from the post-game press conference and in-depth analysis of the game as well when we return after these messages. You're watching Dorman Sports Chat on UA TV3.
I'm Derek Williams, the former U of A Wildcat. You're watching UA TV. Don't change the channel.
I'll be right there.
Thanks, cameraman. You're my hero.
The Arizona basketball squad is back in action. In front of a sold-out crowd Saturday, the Wildcats split into two separate teams and went right down to the wire, with Red ultimately winning 44-38. Freshman Aaron Gordon won this year's dunk contest and had a double-double for the Red alongside sophomore Caleb Tarzuski, who scored 18 points. In blue, freshman Rondé Hollis-Jefferson dropped 18 points, while sophomore Brandon Ashley posted a double-double of his own as well. After the game, Johnson, Tarzuski, and Ashley shared their thoughts. We'll take you to the press conference right now.
Brandon, how much did you work on getting more physical this year in play?
I mean, that was honestly, it was a really big focus of mine. I just wanted to come out, put on some weight, but also work on, being more in shape and agile out there as well.
You're pretty nervous as a freshman, and just kind of being a little more comfortable your sophomore year, it really helps out there. It's really it's an experience playing in front of the great fan support we have, so it's a lot more relaxing.
Is this what you?
No, not really. I mean, that's same old Rondé. Play hard, go to the basket hard, play defense, stuff like that. So.
Evan, we got a chance to see TJ McConnell run the floor again, and he was very shy with shooting the ball. Yes, he's known as an unselfish player, but would you agree that he needs to shoot the ball more, especially when he gets that many open looks?
I mean, I believe to a certain extent he should. I think his mentality, obviously, everybody knows this, is pass first. And so I think sometimes he just wants to be that person so bad that he doesn't want to take that shot. And even Sean Miller in the press conference mentioned that he needs to take the shot if he's open. He's a career 40% shooter. His sophomore year at Duquesne, he was 50% field goal percentage. So, I mean, he can shoot the ball, that's not a question, but I think he's so unselfish that he always looks for those shots for his teammates rather than shoots the ball himself, which is going to be a blessing and a curse because virtually they need perimeter shooting, and he can be one of those guys. And it just depends on who steps up. If it's going to be Nick Johnson that he can find that shot to, that's perfectly fine. But from what I saw of Nick Johnson even, I'm not too keen on his shot. It didn't look better than last year to me. I know it's a red-blue game, but that's going to be shaky. So, yeah, do I think that TJ McConnell should take the shot if he's open? It only makes sense. It's not like it's Aaron Gordon out by the perimeter and he's open. I still don't know if he should take that shot. But TJ McConnell, yeah, he should take that shot.
I mean, we knew from the start. Before preseason, his finally red-blue game, we knew he wasn't going to shoot a lot. That's not really his game. But like you mentioned, eventually during the season, he's going to have to hit some jump shots because that's our biggest hole, at least going into the season, is maybe our shot blocking and our perimeter shot shooting. So there is going to have to be someone to step up. I agree with you as far as it's probably going to have to be Nick Johnson. But throughout Johnson's career, he's been a little bit spotty. He gets hot and he can definitely knock down some big-time shots, but you're going to have somebody at some point in the season kind of take over, add to that, at least assist Nick Johnson in shooting from deep because I mean, you gotta have some sort of three-point threat. You gotta have some jump shot.
Yeah, and to add to that, I know, Elliott Pitts, nobody really has talked about him after the Red-Blue game, but I was impressed with him. He was 2 for 2 from the three-point line. He didn't shoot a lot, but he looked confident. He looked efficient. The thing is, this kid knows his role, but I don't know what his role is going to be because they want to put Gabe York in front of him. Politics-wise, I don't think they'd give Elliott Pitts minutes like that, but he can be their guy, and that's another guy that TJ McConnell can find that shot for, but it doesn't seem like he's going to get the minutes that he possibly deserves. So
I think it's going to be very difficult for the Wildcats to figure out who their three-point shooter is going to be. I think if TJ McConnell, if he gets open and he can consistently hit that, then that will definitely help with the lack of three-point shooting.
All right, so Caleb Tarczewski averaged 6.6 points per game last season, dropped 18 on Saturday and looked great, especially from close. How much better is Arizona if Zeus can be a scorer and not just a rebound for Coach Miller this season?
I feel like with the lack of shooting ability on the team that it presents opportunities for more rebounds, more second chance points for Tarczewski and for any of the bigs.
Sure.
And so I think that was the biggest thing, the biggest reason why he scored so many points was because there were so many misses from far away and from in close. Mm-hmm. And so that only benefits his game. But at the same time, I still, in the Red-Blue game, saw him. He catches the ball gets swatted away easily. Or he catches the ball, before making a move, he puts the ball down, and it gets swatted on the way up. I mean, which results in him in the free throw line. But at the same time, it's going to be more difficult for him to get his offense going if he's having to start at the free throw line at the beginning of every game.
And, I agree with you to a certain extent, but I really believe Caleb Tarczewski, I think Arizona is going to have one of the best front courts in the nation, and virtually that opens up the perimeter as well if everyone's trying to clog the inside, but I think Caleb Tarczewski is going to be one of the biggest guys on this team as far as offense goes, and as well as Aaron Gordon. I saw Aaron Gordon slashing in the paint a little bit and even getting it to Caleb Tarczewski. So I think even that duo right there is really, that's really going to be what helps this Wildcat team prevail when they are definitely lacking in the shooting area.
Just a quick note is fact. I think he gets forgotten sometimes how much you can add, like size-wise, physically, from that freshman year to that sophomore year. It gets forgotten because these guys are huge recruits, and we kind of think, oh, maybe NBA. See these guys go to the NBA after 1 year, expect them to be physically ready, but that after freshman and sophomore year is such a big deal. They get all that summer lifting, and I think it's going to just pay huge dividends for all these guys coming back, including Tark and Ashley, gaining that size and just getting, and you have such athletic guys around Tark this year, it's just going to make him look even better, and it's exciting though.
Yeah, because you saw Caleb Tarczewski and you saw Brandon Ashley have great games, and I think they look just hands down more comfortable, and I think that's the most important thing for those sophomores.
Definitely.
All right, well, Nick, competition is going to certainly be tight for the Wildcats starting 5 this year. So based off the Red-Blue game, who would be in your starting 5?
My starting 5, Joey, we're going to have, at 5, we're going to have Tark, big boy, 7-footer. He's going to start at center, of course. And then Brandon Ashley probably play the 4. Gordon, I think, can play the 4, but you want all those guys on the floor at the same time. Gordon's so athletic. So you're going to put Gordon at the 3. Johnson's going to be at the 2. He's going to be he's going to shoot the most from deep. He's going to be your shooter. And then, of course, McConnell's going to have the point. And from what I'm seeing as far as guys coming off the bench, I'm seeing after Rondé's performance, I don't see too long him staying on the bench. So if he keeps playing like that, he'll be playing he'll come in and play a little bit of 3. Maybe you push up Gordon up to the 4 when he comes onto the floor. And then York probably play 1 or the 2. And then Jordan Mays, you forget about this kid, he can play a little bit of 2 as well. He had some good minutes for the Wildcats last year. So that's my starting 5, little bench guys as well.
I like it.
Yeah, and I disagree with you a little bit on Jordan Mays because I feel like if he's going to go anywhere, I feel like Gabe will always be at the 2. I don't think he'll ever run the point, and Jordan Mays will be at the 1. That's the only difference for me in coming off the bench and everything like that. And hopefully, in my opinion, Elliott Pitts gets off the bench somehow. I think they'll need him definitely if Gabe York continues to kind of play the way he does and lack on defense a little bit, because from what I saw of Elliott Pitts, he's very confident. He's lengthy, and that's really important in being able to spread the floor. So, the coming off the bench minutes will be interesting because it's kind of up in the air for a lot of guys except for Rondé Jefferson. I mean, that was impressive. And I know it's just a red-blue game, but to me, that definitely stood out as maybe a big sixth man like Kevin Parham or something like that.
It also wouldn't surprise me if Rondé started some games in place of Aaron Gordon, and just to get in the mix early on. But I mean, from what I saw from Aaron Gordon, he's by far one of the most athletic players on the team. But Rondé Hollis Jefferson makes more basketball plays.
Yeah. Stick around, because up next you'll hear from Wildcat hockey captain Ansel Ivers-Andersen. You are watching Dorman Sports Chat on UA TV3.
Hi, it's David Hasselhoff, the Hoff. Get Hoff with UATV. Stay tuned. Don't change the dial.
Wildcat hockey senior forward and captain Ansel Ivers-Andersen joined Arizona last year and tied for second on the team with 46 points on 22 goals and 24 assists. Because of his leadership on and off the ice, academic standing, and prior NCAA Division I experience at New Hampshire's hockey program, head coach Sean Hogan named him captain just about a week before the season began. Earlier today, I got a chance to sit down with Ivers-Andersen in the studio. So you guys are 3-3 now. You guys are just coming off a series split with number 10 Liberty. How do you like where the team is at right now?
We feel very confident right now. Friday was a real big win for us. We had a great game out there from beginning to end. A little bit of a letdown on Saturday, not coming back and getting the sweep. But anytime you can go to a top 10 team on the road and get 1 out of 2, it's a good weekend.
And you're the captain this season, obviously taking over for Brian Slugaki, who was there last year. Talk about your road to coming over to Arizona and just becoming the captain and overall that.
Yeah, well, after I left UNH and decided to come transfer here, I just knew a couple of the guys. We came over to just have fun, live with them, finish out college. Saw a couple of the games that my friends were, they're playing in, and immediately fell in love with the atmosphere, with the team. It was a great place to be playing, and I decided to start playing that following year, and just tried being a leader, even though it was my first time coming over and being on the team. But Sluggo really paved the way for everyone. He made it like a real easy transition for me, helped me out with like a leadership role, and luckily my teammates and coaches thought I did a good enough job to get the C this year.
How do you think playing for UNH helped you coming over to adjusting to the ACHA overall?
Well, it's a different league. It's a different level. There's some guys up there that they're in the NHL, the AHL, playing in Europe and everything now. So it prepared me for there's no speed adjustment, no confidence issues coming in. Knew that if you could play with one, you can play with the other. So it really just kind of helped me make my decision a little more.
And so, as the captain, what are your expectations for yourself as a leader on and off the ice this season?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to help lead the team into making it back to the national tournament. And then aside from that, winning the national championship itself. I think that'd be great for the program. We haven't done it in a few years. So my hopes is that I can help lead us to that.
And what kind of leader are you? There's a bunch of different types. The loud and rowdy kinds, and perhaps the quiet kinds. What type of leader are you?
Well, I've always been more of the quiet type, but I'm starting to adjust that role. I know I need to be a little more vocal than I have been in the past. Luckily, our assistant captains, Andrew Merms and Shane Gleason, are both big talkers. So whenever, if I'm not being loud enough, I know one of them can sit and, come into place, and they'll be loud enough for the whole team.
Speaking of them, they were just picked last week, correct?
Yep.
And so what do you expect from them this season in aiding you as assistant captains?
Well, expect a lot, especially Andrew Merms was an assistant last year, so he already knows everything that goes on, and it's real important that the three of us, have good communication because, after the coaches, it comes down to the captains of the rest of the team. So they've both been great so far. I have all the confidence that they'll continue to do it and we can lead this team together.
Now, you and Merms played on the same line last year also, right?
Yep.
How has that carried over into this year? How has your guys' chemistry kind of played out into this year?
It's good. It's, it always makes it easier when you come into a year. You don't have to learn someone new. You don't have to learn how they play, where they're going to be. We have a whole year under our belt at this point, so we can we always know where the other person's going to be when we're out there, and it'll start translating a lot in the ice.
Nice. And so what are you looking forward to most about finally coming home?
It'd be nice to play in front of the home crowd again. It's been a tough couple travel weeks, or I guess a full month here. So it'll be nice that everyone will get their feet under them. We'll have a nice real home stretch for 3 or 4 months, and should be able to take advantage of getting a lot of wins at home.
What's the toughest part about playing so many weeks in a row on the road, and now you'll even be going to Chandler for practice on the ice for a second straight week? So what kind of physical and mental tolls does that take on you and the team overall?
Well, it definitely affects the team. You start losing a little bit of sleep and everything, especially when you need to maintain your schoolwork and your grades. But, it's just adversity that we have to fight through, and we know that, if we can get through these couple weeks, a lot of traveling, get some important wins on the road, it'll bring us a lot closer together.
And as for ASU, the streak was extended to 34 games. How are you going to attack them the next time you guys play?
We did lose the first 2 against them this year, but I think our first game showed that we're more than capable of beating them this year. And I know, from the coaching staff right down to all the new freshmen, we have all the confidence that we're gonna get a couple wins against them this year.
Speaking of the new guys, how do you like how they've been playing this season, and how have you kind of taken them under your wing?
Well, they've been playing great so far. A couple of them have real big roles on the team, big power play, penalty kill time, regular shifts, and they've stepped up right from the get-go. There hasn't been that big of a transition period as you would expect sometimes with the freshmen. But, myself, along with the other seniors and leaders, we're just really trying to make sure, they're having fun at school, they're staying on top of their grades, like they're still having fun playing hockey. And then, whenever they make a mistake, we're just trying to be supportive and just help them out.
Right. And so to close out the interview, what is the number one reason fans should come out to come watch Wildcat hockey this season?
Well, we're gonna have a winning team this year. We have a great stadium. It's a lot of fun to come check the games out, and unlike some years past, I expect we're gonna get a lot of wins this year. So it'll be a lot of fun for everyone to come check out.
Awesome, thanks. Last week, our analysts and I unanimously picked the Atlanta Falcons to beat the New York Jets for our Monday Night Football prediction. The Jets ended up winning a close one, and so all of us started the season off 0-1 with our Monday night picks. Tonight, the Indianapolis Colts and the San Diego Chargers went at it, and the Chargers beat the Colts 19-9 at Qualcomm Stadium. And so Nick and Cam were the people who picked the Chargers to win. Cam picked Chargers 27, Colts 24, and Nick said Chargers 31, Colts 27. So, they picked the scores a little too high, but, nice job, guys. That was a tough pick.
Thanks.
Absolutely, which is obviously why I got the job.
They were at home, that's the only thing I had going.
Right?
San Diego's pretty solid at home, so.
Yeah, true that. Especially in the Powder Blues.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's time for a quick game of 30 seconds where the analyst and myself will each have 30 seconds to voice one of their opinions about any topic in sports. Evan, you're leading off.
Well, I just have to mention my deepest condolences to Adrian Peterson, who lost his son. A very sad situation. He still came out and played, which is a great thing for him to be able to move past that in a way where he can release that stress or anger even with football. And I think that takes a lot to do. I know I couldn't do it, but I'm very sad for him as far as him losing his son. I can't imagine what that would be like.
Nick, you're up next.
Well, it's hard to top that one, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the New York Giants. I know a lot of people, they're talking about them in the wrong ways. It's surprising they're 0-6. This team 2 years ago, was in the Super Bowl. They won it all. So at this point, they're talking maybe trading one of their best receivers, Akeem Nicks. He's on the block. The Niners are interested. They have one running back in practice. His name's Michael Cox. I didn't even know who he was. He's a 6th-round draft pick. They've got David Wilson's in LA right now. He's not even with the team. He's having his neck checked out. Darrell Scott and Brandon Jacobs both have hamstring injuries, so they're not even at practice. I mean, everything is falling apart. This is a team that's ranked right now they're ranked 20th in opposing passing yards and 26th in opposing rushing yards. That's a team that has Ansel Roll in the secondary, and my time is up.
Are you on
But I'm just going to rant. I can't believe how bad they are. It's insane, dude.
Right,
I'm just going to roll. My bad.
Cam, you can go.
Well, week 6 just ended, but with next week, week 7, the Colts are traveling to, or the Broncos rather, are traveling to the Colts, and the Indianapolis fans and organization is going to honor Peyton Manning and the contributions he made to the program. So I'm really looking forward to that because he's obviously one of the more prominent Colts figures in their team's history.
Oh.
Can I keep going?
Yeah, you got 14 more seconds.
30. Never mind. I'll close this out. Hey, Houston fans, come on. Cheering when Matt Schaub goes down for an injury. I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen this with NFL fans before. We've seen it in New York with the Jets cheering when Chad Pennington went down to injury. We've seen it in Kansas City when Matt Castle went down to injury. NFL fans in general, stop cheering when somebody gets hurt. I don't care how poorly they've played. I don't care if they've thrown a pick 6 in the last, 4 games or whatever it was. You never cheer when someone gets hurt. And there is no medium with that. So make sure you tune in again next week for another exciting episode. For our analysts, Evan, Nick, and Cam, along with our production crew, I'm Joey Petrello. Thanks again from all of us for watching Dorm Room Sports Chat on UA TV3.